Welcome everybody. I'm so happy to see you all in our second webinar. I wanted to go ahead and share my PowerPoint so that we can get started. Here we go. I have a list of tools here on this cover sheet to show you that we all have tools in our bags. We all have tools that we use as we teach every day. And what I'm hoping that this webinar will do tonight is to give you some more tools to use in your teaching. So there's a very strange noise buzzing. Hold on just a second. I am so sorry. We have no water at my house right now. So there is a plumber trying to fix it and it's causing the fire alarm to go off. So sorry guys, but I'm back. I think all is good. Anyway, these tools here are for you to think about how you can add some more games and activities to your teaching to maybe make over your grammar and vocabulary lessons. So let me continue. Today or tonight, I guess I should say this morning for you, we're going to review a little bit from webinar 1. Last week we kind of ran out of time, so I wanted to very quickly review what we did last week and help you understand how to use the Moodle or the Tech for Teaching site that CMAO has set up for you to get more information from. We will also talk about active learning. We will practice 5 activities tonight. And then we're going to look at your homework for webinar number 2. And finally, we'll talk about any issues or questions or concerns you may have. So what did we do last week? Last week, we talked about brain-based learning. And we remembered that when you are creating a learning situation or task for your students, that you should think about using scaffolding, so kind of building on what they already know. Remember that most of us learn by doing, which is why we're going to practice 5 activities tonight. It is really a good idea to try to create stimulating experiences in your classroom. There's the old adage, use it or lose it, which means if you don't keep practicing something, a new skill that you've acquired, chances are it's going to not stick and go away. And then finally, remember that emotions are very, very tied in to whether or not you're receptive to learning. And we talked a little bit about integrating the 4 skills last week, providing a rich multisensory environment that embraces the arts, music, storytelling, drama, emotions. And that's because we want to engage our students, right? I know that sometimes I teach present perfect and I do it the same way every time I teach it. And I kind of like lose interest in it myself. So I think that when my interest is peaked or my interest is high, that translates or and affects the students and their interest becomes high as well. Last week, we very quickly touched on Padlet as a way to integrate all 4 skills. And we're going to do that again tonight. I'm hoping that that will help solidify what you learned last week about the tech tool Padlet. Honestly, in my classes, I usually teach face-to-face, and when we're brainstorming ideas, we'll put them on little Post-its and put them up on the board, or people will come up and write their ideas on the board. And basically, all Padlet is just an electronic version of that. And then finally, last week, I told you about your homework. As you were told by CMAO Retrack, there's been a change in your homework. I'm going to have you do it in groups of 9 or 10 people, and those groups were already created, and you should have gotten an email that told you what group you were in. Also, it's not going to be due until May 15th. So you have about a month to work on that. But let's take a quick look at that. What we were talking about last week was the Native American flag of New Mexico. I showed you a picture of a sun, and it had 4 points coming off each side. And we used that legend of the Native American sun to talk about shining a bright light on the 4 skills. I found in your grade 8 textbook a unit on legends, and it mentions this legend about the creation or the origin of Vietnam. And I thought this was fascinating, that there was a man and a woman who got married, and they split the children up, and some went to the mountains and some stayed by the sea. So I thought that was a really, really interesting legend. And I thought maybe your students would think so too, because it is about their country, right? So I gave you last week some possible extension activities for legends. I said you could read some stories. There's graphic organizers that you can download and use. You could organize a debate about legends. You could do a reader's theater, etc. So these were all just ideas maybe for you to think about to use when you are doing a lesson on legends. What I was asking you to do for homework with your group was to actually create a lesson, because I thought it would be really useful for all of you to leave these webinars with 10 lessons. So if you create a lesson, your group, the other groups also create lessons, then you're gonna have 10 beautiful lesson plans when you leave these webinars in August. So the directions for the lesson plan can be found in the Moodle. At the end of this webinar this evening, we're going to go look at the Moodle. So I'll show it to you then, rather than go there now and then come back and then go there again and come back. So the lesson plan assignment is basically you're going to review what effective lesson plan looks like, and there's a supplementary resource for that. Your group has to decide on a grade level and the length of the lesson. And it sounds like most of your classes are 45 minutes, so I would assume you would do it in a 45-minute period, although you could extend it over 2 days if you wanted. I want you to try to incorporate all 4 skills into your group's lesson. And of course, you can modify this story that's on the web to suit the level of your students. There is a lesson plan template, and I chose this one because it's pretty generic. It's one I think many of you are probably familiar with. So that template is also in the Moodle, and you can download it. If you have any questions, please let me know. You can message me in the Moodle, and I will do my best to try to assist you. And there is a rubric there that shows you how your group will be assessed. So one person, your group leader, will be the one that submits the assignment, and then I will be able to replicate the comments I put on it and send it back to all 10 of you in the group. Whew, I'm talking very fast. Did everybody understand that? I hope. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. Here is the lesson plan. It's a Word document that you'll find in the Moodle, and it's pretty straightforward. I think it tells you pretty much what you need to put into each box. Okay, so that's kind of a recap of what we did last week. Tonight is going to be a little bit different because I'm not going to have you go into breakout rooms for as long of a time. And this time I'm just going to ask for volunteers to report out of the breakout rooms rather than have each group report, only if somebody from the group wants to report. And that way, perhaps we won't have quite as much repetition, or I won't feel like people are being put on the spot, because I don't want to create any kind of feelings of being put on the spot. So tonight we're going to have 2 breakout sessions, and we will have a shorter time for those. But let's get into our webinar, shall we? It is called Makeover Your Grammar and Vocabulary Lessons. I love garden shows, and I love shows that show you how to make your house look nicer. but not shows where you have to spend a lot of money. I like the ones that are, you can paint a room, or you can, move your pillows here and put a plant here. So I love gardening shows especially, but I like the home shows too. So in America, those are very popular. They are kind of like reality shows where you see a garden, like this garden up here, and then they spend maybe a day, a team of people come in and they make it over. And so at the end of the day, they leave and it looks like this. So I'm crazy about this shows because I love to see what a difference a team of creative people can make on a living space. But that's kind of how I feel about my teaching sometimes. I know sometimes I keep doing the same old thing over and over, and I realize I really need to make over some of my lessons and try to make them a little bit more engaging for my students. So that's what we're going to try tonight. We're going to have our before and after lessons, right? So this is a laundry room, and you can see how disorganized it is. And after the makeover, everything's tidy in its place. It's just feels so much better. So let's try that tonight. Let's see if we can make over our grammar and vocabulary lessons, because my understanding from you all is that teaching grammar and vocabulary are very important parts of the teaching that you do because of the national exams that you're required, or your students are required to take. So let me very quickly tell you that educators need to recognize the differentiation of instructional methodology, addressing the learning needs of a diverse group of learners. So we need to mix things up, I think. We need to use our tools as educators to build lessons that appeal to all of our learners. I think that's an important responsibility that we all have. So we are going to be providing learners with greater choices and pathways of learning. We're trying to make learning meaningful and authentic. And I think one way of doing that is by using active learning in the classroom. So why use active learning? Active learning is used because research shows us after about 10 to 20 minutes, people's minds start to wander. And that's for adults too. I know these Zoom meetings can be really, really long because you start to think about other things that you could be doing, right? So that's where we're going to try some active activities tonight to hopefully keep you engaged in this webinar. But we know our students, they really, really respond well to having a chance to practice things in the classroom with their peers. So active learning also provides more frequent and immediate feedback to the students. It addresses different student learning styles. It provides students with an opportunity to think about, talk, and process course material. And finally, it reinforces important material, concepts, and skills. So why should we use it? It creates personal connections to the material for students, which increases their motivation to learn. Let's see if I can get this to move. Come on. There we go. It allows students to practice important skills such as collaboration through pair and group work. And finally, it builds self-esteem through conversations with other students. And that is why we're going to start our first activity. Our activity number one is a game for increasing vocabulary, or for reinforcing vocabulary that you've taught in your classes. So rather than just give students a worksheet where they have to match maybe vocabulary to a definition, this activity is asking students to get into groups and to practice the vocabulary together. So the objective is to review targeted grammar structures or vocabulary. You need to, for this game, prepare a card game board. And then you need to make a copy for every 4 to 6 students. So you can make the card game board, or you can have your students make the card game board. I have probably 5 or 6 that I just use all the time, but occasionally I'll make a new one for a new unit that we're studying, or if I'm assigned to a different level of students, then I sometimes have to adapt the card games that I have. And then each group needs a deck of cards. The way that you play this game is that you distribute the deck of cards on the game board, you explain the directions, and then of course you're going to model it for your students. And then you're going to make sure the students understand that they have to listen carefully to each other because they're the judges. So if the group decides that somebody didn't give the correct answer, then the group wins, then that person doesn't get any points. The way that we're going to play this game is that you have a deck of cards and you need to, if I can get that changed, you have a deck of cards, and each group has a deck of cards, and the Jack, Queen, and King are all worth 10 points, and the Ace is worth 1 point. And the way that you play this is you can give the students a set amount of time. You can say you're going to play the game for 15 minutes, or you're going to play the game until all of the cards are gone. So however you want to arrange it, that's the way that you'll do it. So what happens, this is the card board game. So you can see up here, this is one where my students are practicing irregular verbs. And we have the spades where it says past tense verb. So if you would get an ace of spades, you need to tell your group what the past tense form of awake is. If you get a 10 of hearts, you have to say the past tense verb and you have to spell it. So if you got draw, you would have to do drew, and then you would have to tell your group D-R-E-W. Do you get it? I don't have the whole game board here because it was too small. I didn't know if you could see it on your phone if you're looking at your phone. So I made it just part of the game board. But I do have this in the Moodle. If anybody else wants to use it in their classes, you're more than welcome to. But let's go ahead and try a few of these, shall we? I've got a deck of cards here. I'm going to hold it up. Would you please put in the chat box? Let's try the first 5 people who can get it into the chat box. Are you ready? Okay, here we go. Boom. A 10 of spades. So in the chat box right now, you're looking at the 10 of spades. You need to put in the past tense form. Here we have 10 of spades. Past tense form of bite. I'm going over to the chat to see if anybody's got that in there. Let's see, what is the past tense form? Bit. Woo, look at those smarty pants. Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Okay, let's try another one. And again, I don't do this electronically. I don't do this when I'm teaching online. This is a game that really works best in the classroom. But let's try another one. Here we go. Boom. A king of diamonds.
Let, L-E-D.
So a king of diamonds. Excellent. I heard somebody say it. Excellent. The past tense is led, right? And you have to spell it too. So L-E-D. Excellent. Let's try 2 more. Here we go. Oh no, let's try another game board. So this one is just irregular verbs to practice. The next game board I have is vocabulary. So this one, you can do it according to the level of students that you have. I like to have the students make a complete sentence if they do alike. So if they come to color, if it's a 10 of spades and it's color, they have to say, I like green. Or if it's a song, I like Toi Kung Yuem. I remember that song from Vietnam. I'm not sure that's the title, but you want to use a complete sentence here. But if it's a lower level students, they could just say, I like cake, or just cake is enough. Over here for hearts, past participle, have plus past participle. Again, this is more of a grammar exercise here, but I know my students have a struggle between past tense and past participles. So they have to come up with a sentence. So they will say, I have gone to the city many times. Here they have to give me an opposite, and it can just be a word, you know, opposite of outgoing maybe would be shy. And then over here for diamonds, name an example in the category. So if they get a queen of diamonds and it's vegetable, maybe they will say, you know, cucumber. So let's try it. You guys ready? Let's try it. Here we go. Boom. Ace of diamonds.
Vietnam.
Vietnam. I heard somebody say it. Excellent. Okay. If you want to put your answers in the chat or just shout them, that's fine. That's probably easier. Let's try another one. Is it 10
Rome.
London.
London.
Washington DC. London.
Excellent. Excellent. One more, my friends. Here we go. Jack of hearts.
January.
Wanted.
January.
Ah.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
wanted.
I have wanted.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay, so what happens in the group that if this is my card and I pick it and I say it correctly and my team or the other people say, yep, that was right, I get to keep the card. So Jack's worth 10 points. So I have 10 points. So you just keep going around the group and they each pick a card. If they say it correctly, they get to keep it. If they don't, put it back. Okay. Let me show you one more card. I teach a business English class where students have to practice being in an interview, and they also have to practice presentation skills. So this one is a little bit more sophisticated. I'm not sure that it would work for some of your younger students that some of you are teaching, but this is, these are all things that we've studied in class. So this is not something new. This is reinforcing what we have been working on in our class. So let's just try this. We have presentation language, we have interview questions, we have functional language. So I'm trying to teach my students how to interact in a group. And then here are some common interview questions that they may encounter in a real life interview. So this one's going to be a little bit harder. Maybe I could ask somebody or somebody wants to volunteer. We have a King of Hearts. King of Hearts. Can somebody tell me about their weaknesses?
I'm a little bit shy.
Excellent. I'm a little bit shy. And that can be a strength too, right? Because oftentimes people who are a little bit shy aren't talking all the time. So excellent, excellent. Let's try one more. How about a 9 of clubs?
Nightclub.
Because
I want to become a teacher because I love children.
Oh, I love it. I want to become a teacher because I love children. Explaining choices, right? So I would rather be a teacher and work for children than be a plumber and work on the bathtub that has no water. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Maybe one more, King of Spades.
hello.
Am I from Đồng Nai?
I'm from Đông Đông. Nice to see you.
Excellent. I heard that. I'm not sure who said that, but thank you. You introduced yourself. Good. So do you see that this might be useful, I hope, for your classes? There's so many different game boards you can create. In fact, you could just do vocabulary from maybe the first 2 units and put it and have your students write the vocabulary. And then if they get that word, they have to define it or they have to translate it, however you set up your vocabulary lessons. Okay, so that was our activity number 1. So thank you for practicing. Our next activity is called SWOT the correct answer. And this activity I use in my classes to reinforce grammatical accuracy and practice listening comprehension. So what you need to do is create a list of sentences with the grammatical form that you're practicing. And then you can say the word blank when you want the student to use the word. I'm actually hearing some other people there. I'm going to put that on mute. Okay, so when you have the word that is missing, where the students need to SWOT, that is when you say the word blank. So let's see if we can practice this. The way this is set up is that it's nice because it works well with really big classes too. What you're going to do is you're going to have two teams for one group. So you'll have maybe 4 students in one line, 4 students in the second line, and they are a group. So they are working on their own papers. And then you'll have another group with 4 and 4, which would be like 8 students, or 5 and 5. So you could have maybe 5 groups with 2 teams on each group. And the 2 teams are in competition. So they're trying to see who gets the most points. And you get a point for a correct answer. What I like about this game is that students are lined up behind each other, and it's really good for building kind of team spirit. And my students go wild. I use this with adults, and my adult students love this. I'm a little bit nervous about children because sometimes children, maybe if they have a swatter, they might start hitting each other. So you'll have to watch that. But generally, I think this seems to work well in classes. So what the students do is they line up behind each other, and the teacher reads the sentence, and the 2 teams have to choose the correct answer. So tonight, I thought we would practice the prepositions in, on, and at. So if you have a piece of paper, if you have an in, on, or at, if you have a piece of paper, if you could do that, because what I'm going to have you do is pretend that you are swatting it. So if you have a big piece of paper, and you can write the words at, in, and on it. And we will go ahead and try that. And if you don't, if you want to just write the answer down, that's fine too. But what I'm going to do is, you can see behind me, I have my at, in, and on. So I would have students lined up this way, and they would each have a swatter, a fly swatter, and as soon as they knew the answer, they would hit it. So maybe this person put in, this person put on, maybe they went like this, but this person was first. So it's very fun, it's very active, and I'm sorry that we can't actually be together in a room to practice this, but we'll just practice it on our own. So is everybody ready? I'm going to read a sentence. You have to tell me if it is at, in, or on. Okay, here we go. Let me go to the next page. So I'm not going to show it to you until I say it. So this is a listening exercise. When I say the word blank, that is where you need to put in the preposition. Are you ready? Okay, let's try it. I live blank.
In.
I'm going to say it again. I live blank Rose.
In.
I don't hear it.
In.
Actually, the answer to this one is
In.
on.
On street.
On street. I live on Rose Street.
Rose Street.
Okay, let's try number 2. Are you ready? I live blank 1351 Rose Street.
At.
Woo! So if your students were in a line, they would hit at, right? So they would be listening, and then as fast as they could, they would hit it. Okay, excellent. That was at. Let's try number 3. I live blank Hanoi.
In.
Good. I live in Hanoi. Excellent.
In.
Number 4. I live blank Vietnam.
In.
Excellent. Another in. Number 5. I am going to eat dinner blank 6 o'clock.
At.
I can tell you guys speak English. You're getting it all right. Okay, number 6. I'm going to eat dinner blank a cafe.
In a cafe. In.
In. I'm going to eat in a cafe.
In.
And number 7, our last one. I like to watch TV blank my bedroom. In. Excellent. Okay, so do you see how you could use this for many, many things? You could put the parts of speech up, and you could give a word. You could put past tense or past participle, and then you could say, for example, drew, and they would have to hit past tense. Or you could say drawn, and they would have to hit past participle. So it's kind of a listening game as well as a grammar game that I don't do very often. I do it like, 2 or 3 times a semester. But every time I bring in, I have like 15 or 16 of these. When I bring them into class, everybody gets really excited because we know we're going to play this for like 15 minutes at the end of the class. Okay, let me continue because, there was number 7, in my bedroom. I want to stop here for a moment because I want to give you some time to think about these 2 activities. The first one, we showed the card games, and I gave you an example of irregular verbs, of vocabulary, and of like an interviewing and presentation skills. But can you think of any other topics that might go on one of those cards? I'm hoping that you'll have a few ideas that you can share with one another. Also, do you have any other ideas for the SWOT game? I showed you playing it with prepositions, but what about some other ideas, like maybe playing it with the parts of speech, or playing it with past tense, past participle, present participle forms of the verbs? So think about that for a couple of minutes. We'll just do a quick 10-minute breakout group, and then we'll come back and I will ask if people are interested from their different groups of reporting out. Again, we're going to try to keep it to 90 seconds, so a minute and a half, just to share any ideas that your group came up with, because I know you're all very clever. So I'm excited to hear some of your ideas. So I'm hoping that we will be able to have our Semayor retrack person put us into groups. Let me stop this share here for a moment. And because I don't have that, can we see this video later? My internet connection is really poor. Yeah, they are going to record this, so you'll be able to see it later. You'll hear the fire alarm going off in my house. Okay, so let me see if I can get us into groups here. I think maybe our administrator will be able to do that for us. So again, your task in your group is to think of ways to adapt these 2 activities to your own classrooms. So go ahead and join your group and get some ideas, I hope, from your group. I will see you all in 10 minutes at 8:15 or 9:15, excuse me. Do I have anybody from group 1 that would like to report what they talked about, if you had any ideas? And if you didn't, it's okay. I know I was in breakout room 5 when we came up with they came up with a few great ideas, but anybody in group 2 want to jump in and report about what you talked about? How about group 3? Does group 3, anybody want to talk about discuss what they talked about?
Yeah, well, we have discussed about the 3 questions and the 2 questions. In terms of brainstorming some other topics of the card games, besides the 3 ways you have suggested, like vocabulary, irregular verbs, and interviewing, we have some more ways, such as we can choose a topic in the textbook and we design a task for them. For example, we have a hobby topic. So we will divide the 4 hobby into 4 sections. In each, in eggs, in kings, in queen and jack, we will have a question for them. For example, what is the hobby? Where do you usually play it? When, why, and how, etc. Yes.
I love it.
Yeah. And another way is to use part of speech of each words related to the topics. For example, we can use a word, a noun, and they ask them to find out the adjective, the verbs, or an adverb, for example. And for the second question, the grammar construction, we have some more ways. For example, we can use phrasal verb for them for the SWOT game. We can use some idioms or collocation. For example, we have some idioms of color, and we write some color on the board, and then we will read the idioms, and they will swap on the correct color on the board.
Love it. Excellent. Your group was on fire this morning. Thank you. How about our next group? Do we have somebody from group 4?
Yes, I'm from group number 4. And on behalf of group number 4, we have discussed and come up with some idea for the activity. The first one is the project game. And we would like the student to make a sentence for a verb in the simple present tense, in the simple past, present continuous, or past continuous. And for the activity number 2, swap the correct answers. We can help the student to use it to check the pronunciation for the consonant or the vowel. Maybe we did the sound s and z, okay? And we can use it to check the relative pronouns, remember, relative pronouns, such as who, whom, which, that. And we can use it to check the WH question works. And that is the idea for from our group number 4. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. I hadn't thought about using it for pronunciation, but I think that's a really good idea. And that's something that my group had come up with too. So brilliant minds are at work here this morning. Let me ask group 5, could I have our speaker share ideas?
So hello. So for the first question, my group thinks that we should have some kind of revision for example, conditional sentences, or some kind of relative pronouns, or comparatives. So for example, so we have like the space is for the first conditional sentence, and the hearts for the second, clubs for the third, and maybe the diamond is for the mixed type of them. And if, for example, if the student get an A space, then they need to make a sentence, for example, in the first conditional sentence, like if it is sunny today, I will go camping, or something like that. And and for we do agree that they can use who, whom, which, that for revision of relative pronouns, and also the comparatives, that we can provide the students with some kind of adjectives in in the form of comparatives. And for the SWOT, the board SWOT, the correct answer, Ms. Yuen in our group said that we should use it to maybe revise the ED pronunciation.
Excellent. Thank you for your contribution.
Yeah,
did I have a group 6 or I think we only had 5 groups, but I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, hello everyone. We are from group 6 and we suggest some topics for the card games. We can ask students to talk about jobs, about kinds of film or music, about animals, about routine or timetable, about famous people, about sport or records or score in sport, and some historical places, ways to protect the environment, and for some grammar point for the SWOT game, we suggest phrasal verbs, we suggest tenses or article or relative clauses. We'll be going to our present continuous. We suggest passive voice. Thank you for listening.
Golly, you had a lot of ideas. How did you do that all in 10 minutes? Excellent. Do I have another group that wants to report? I think these are really good ideas. I wanted to go back for just 1 second to show you again the card game because here we go. Each column has got a theme. So for example, this is all presentation language. These are all interview questions. So your entire board has a theme and then each column has a theme. If you look back here, this was just regular vocabulary. So this is very generic, very general, where you're talking about likes. You could have dislikes. You could have, you know, food, and each one of these would be a different kind of food, you know, vegetable, fruit, cold food, hot food, you know, etc., spices. So I just wanted to clarify that each column kind of has its own theme, as well as having an overall theme. Here we had irregular verbs, and then each one of these students had to do a different task. They either had to give the past tense, they had to give the past tense and spell it, they had to give the past participle and spell it. So this was kind of cheating because it was just a way to get more verbs on the game card. Okay, let's go ahead and move on though, because we still have 3 more games to try. And I gotta get through theirs, here we go. The next thing I wanted to show you is something called Mad Libs. And Mad Libs is a game that was invented, I think back in the 1950s here in the United States. And what it is it's a word game where you ask your students to come up with different parts of speech, but you don't give them the context. So they don't really know what it is that you're doing or what kind of story it is that they're creating. These books you can buy, but teachers don't have money. I don't like to buy books, right? I mean, I do, I think we all do, but there are free Mad Libs that you can use on this website. So this website is part of your references. So if you want to come into the PowerPoint and click on that, that will open up the free Mad Libs that you can use. But what we're going to do tonight is that we're going to try this game because I can tell you all about them, but unless you try them, I don't think you really know if it's something that might be useful or not for your students. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, well, let me tell you a little bit more about it. The objective is to practice recognizing parts of speech and to improve vocabulary. You can use any story. You can use a story from your textbook. You can go to the Mad Libs website and use one of their pre-done stories. This is a very easy activity, and it's similar to a close activity where you have a paragraph and maybe you take out all of the verbs. But in this activity, instead of taking out and having students listen and write, you're having them write an example of a part of speech, and then you put it into a story. And then I have my students share their stories in their groups. And sometimes they are so funny that we are literally like crying with laughter because some of these stories just turn out so wacky and strange. So let's try this. The directions are, you divide your class into groups of 3 or 4. You give on the board up on the front, if you could write down a numbered list of parts of speech, and then you ask your group to work together to come up with an example of each one of these parts to speech. After that, you reveal the story and the students put in their missing words. So we're going to try that right now. I'm going to ask you right now to go to, and then we have the students read the stories and we vote on the best one. I'm going to ask you to go to Padlet again, because a lot of you didn't have a chance to do this last time. So let me go ahead and copy and paste this into the chat box. Whoops, go back, so that we can try this in Padlet. I'm going to ask you all to, darn it, I'm not getting out of there. Let's see. Okay, let me paste that in there. And go back to our Zoom meeting and put it here. So here is the website. It's https://padlet.com, ABQ Amy, that's my name, and then Mad Libs. And if you are not familiar with Padlet, Padlet is just an electronic board that allows you to, I think I have this open already. Let me share my screen here. And so what it says here in Padlet, it says, write down an example of each of the parts of speech. Number your posting 1 to 6. For number 1, put the name of a person. And so I gave you the famous actress here from Vietnam. So there's my first answer. The next one says present tense action verb in first person. So I just chose an action verb, dance. So what I want you to do, if you can open up another screen, and if you want to just jot it down on a piece of paper, that's fine too. Again, to use Padlet, once you're here, you just click on that plus button, and it says title, write something. So I'm going to do number 1, and I'm going to put my answer, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going to put 2, blah, 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 blah. Put 3, blah, 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 right? And then when I'm done, it will be posted there for other people to see. So let me see, I'm going to go ahead and clear that one out. Okay, so let me see if anybody else is going to put in their Padlet. Can you all see this, by the way? Do you all see the Padlet showing up? I'm hoping that everybody sees that. Okay, I don't see any answers yet. So the way that you play this Mad Libs game is that you you give your students this kind of list of things, and they don't really know what it's gonna be, the story's gonna be about. So they just have to come up with a name of a person. So somebody said Edison. Okay, maybe Thomas Edison, I don't know. There I see Helen, Ty, Taylor, Oh, maybe Taylor Swift. I love it. Okay, okay. And then you have to, for your second one, you have to put a present tense action verb in the first person. So I see, and it's probably better if you put all of your list on one. Yeah, good. So then I have sings, but it says present tense in first person. Is sings first person? Or do we need to change that to sing? There's a Tammy, Edison, Tweak, and to John. And good. So we're not creating sentences. All we're doing is putting in one word. So number one, it says name of a person. Just give me a noun, the name of a person. Number two says present tense action verb in the first person. So not my dad has a walk every morning, just walk. Yes, you corrected it. Good job, good job. Harry Potter, okay, eats, drinks, Madison Square, sleeps, horse. Okay, I'm loving these. Okay, I think we get the idea, right? What you do is that you, and what you do with the reason I have my students do this in a group is that they can correct each other. So if somebody says listens, they can say, oh, no, that's third person. We have to use just listen. Okay, so we have looks like a lot of ideas here. I'm gonna keep this open because I want to pop back into the PowerPoint, and then we'll pop back over here. Let's see if I can stop the share there. I appreciate everybody who's participating, by the way. Let me go back into the PowerPoint and show you what the story is. So our story is this. Hi, my name's, and that was when we needed a name. This is what I like to do in my free time. I often, and then we have a verb and a verb. And then, or I go to, and this was a place, and this one was a verb, and then this one was an animal, the name of an animal. So the story that I wrote comes from the grade 8 textbook where I actually hear a lot of chatter in the background. Let me see if I can mute people because I'm hearing a lot of extra noise. I'm not sure who, oh, maybe it's gotten quiet. Good. Okay, so here's the story from the textbook. It says, how are you? This is what I like to do in my free time. I often play video games or watch TV, or I go to the park and play football with my friends. So I just stole this from the book, and I would give it to my students as just a way to practice the parts of speech and identifying the different parts of speech. So this is the story that I had. Hi, my name's No Tan Ben. This is what I like to do in my free time. I often dance or I walk to Paris, France, and swim with my zebra. I enjoy doing this very much. So you can see that's kind of a ridiculous story. If we had that same story back in our Padlet, let me go back to our Padlet and we will see if we can plug in a few of those. Here we could say, hi, my name's, let me find one that's got completely done. I see that lots of people participated, yay. How about, hi, my name's Harry Potter. This is what I like to do in my free time. I often eat or drink, or I go to, oops, I just lost Harry Potter. Where did he go? Dun, 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 dun. Oh, or I often go to Madison Square Garden with my, or I go to Madison Square Garden and sleep with and play with my, whoops, I'm on the wrong one. I keep losing it. Well, I think you get the point here, right? You're going to plug each one of those into the story, and that will create kind of an outrageous story. So again, this Padlet you can come back to and look at. The directions for the Mad Lib are in the Zoom. But I love, do you see that we have so many different ideas here? And if you put those into that story, I promise you they're going to be pretty darn funny. So I encourage you to try this activity. Let me go back to the PowerPoint so that we continue looking at it. This Mad Lib game has got a wonderful teacher's guide that I'm going to show you towards the end of this webinar that has 28 different ideas for grammar and vocabulary games. So this is an extra resource that I wanted to share with you. It was produced by the Penguin House, which is a publishing house for young children, but I think many of these ideas you could use in your classes. Okay, so that is Mad Libs. Let's move on to activity number 4. And this is an activity that requires a dice. So if you have a dice, you want to be sure to bring those to class. If you don't have a die for each one of your groups of students, I included a template to make a paper die. So you can, there's a template where you fold it and tape it, and you can make a paper die. There's also the possibility of using an electronic dice on Google. Google app has an electronic dice that you can use too. But the way that you play this game is, I'm just going to go ahead and put all the directions up here for you. You play this game by dividing again your class into groups of 3 or 4. On the board, you're going to write down the directions so that the students can look up at the board. Or if you want to have the students write the directions down on a piece of paper as a dictation exercise, you could certainly do that too. But you don't need to memorize this. You should be able to have a resource to look at. Then you're going to create a list of vocabulary. So if you were doing Unit 8 on legends, you would try to take all the vocabulary from the book and use that as part of this game. What the students do in their group is they're going to take turns rolling the die. And if a student gets the correct answer, you earn that point. So if I roll a 4 and I get 4, I get my question right, then I get 4 points. So you have to have a way to tally your points. And then at the end of the game, the student with the most points wins. And of course, the other students in the group are the judges. So what you do here for the dice game is, if you have a word from your unit and you roll a 1, you have to write the definition of the word. If you get a 2, you have to write a synonym of the word. Number 3, write an antonym of the word. Number 4, write a sentence with the word. Number 5, illustrate the word. And number 6 is act out the word. So I have write here because sometimes I think it's easier for students to write it down before they speak it. But if you want to change the rules and say you have to say a definition of the word, or you have to tell us a synonym, that's perfectly fine. Adapt the game to however it works best with your students. In fact, you could do this as a whole class activity. You, the teacher, could roll the dice, and everybody has to write a definition of the word if you get a number 1. And then you go to the next word and you roll it again and you say, okay, this time, everybody write a sentence with the word. So there's different ways that you could use the dice and use this game. Let's try it, shall we? In the grade 10 book, there is a unit on the environment, and these were 5 words that were in that unit. So this is from your textbooks in Vietnam, and we have these 5 words. So here it says roll the dice and do the task. I'm gonna roll an electronic dice. Let me see if I can. I'm not sure I can do that and have both screens up. So I think I'll just roll this dice here. So here we go. I got a number 3. Let's go back. The word is deplete. Everybody deplete. Can you, in the chat box, write an antonym for deplete? So in the chat box, write an antonym for deplete.
Protect.
So we got a number 3, and that a 3 means write an antonym. So let me check out the chat box. Whoops, I can't seem to get to it. There we go. In the chat box, so an antonym for deplete is where at the very bottom here. Increase. Excellent, excellent. You got it. Let me go back to our word again. I'm going to roll the dice again. Our next word is deforestation. Are you ready? Deforestation.
Yes.
Ooh, I got a 1. Deforestation.
That means cut down the trees in the forest.
Excellent. So it says write the definition of the word. Somebody just told me it. That's fine. So deforestation is the act of cutting down the trees and the plants. Cut down trees in the forest. Woohoo! What smart teachers we have. Excellent. Let's try another word. Oops, I'm going the wrong direction. Let's see. Our next word is inorganic. Here's my dice. I'm going to roll it. In Vietnam, do you ever blow on the dice? Like, make it hot. Here we go. Oh, I got 1 again. Let's try 6 instead, just for fun.
It's the opposite of organic.
So inorganic, if I got a number 6, it says act out the word or choose a 1 to 5 task. So sometimes it's hard to act out a word, or choose a 1 to 5 task. So to me,
number 3.
Card.
So number 3, organic.
Organic.
Exactly. Maybe if you were going to act out inorganic, you'd be like, I don't know. Maybe you could pretend you're dead. I don't know. Or not mineral. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we have just 2 more words here. Our next word is preserve. Preserve. 2. Let's see what
So protect or conserve.
Conserve, protect, excellent, excellent. 1 more word. Our last word tonight is awareness. Let's pretend that we got the number 5. How would you draw awareness? How would you illustrate it? Does anybody have an idea of how you might draw awareness?
Illustrate awareness.
Recognition.
So maybe if I were going to draw awareness, maybe I would draw a light bulb with light coming out. Like awareness is all of a sudden seeing things differently or being cognizant of something happening. So that's kind of a tricky one. That illustrating the word can be tricky. But I think students like this because it's kind of a creative way to practice a vocabulary that they've already been taught. So I would encourage you to try this game and see how it works for your students. Okay, my friends, we are down to our last game, but this one is going to take, I want to show you several things about this game. What this is a list of 11 board games that are available to you on the American English website. The American English website is sponsored by the Department of State, and all of the resources are open educational resources. So they are available for you to use, and you can change them, modify them for your classes. There's no copyright issues for these resources. What these board games are designed to do is to have your students work in groups on them, and they have different themes. And they require students to produce different kinds of expression so they can be used for vocabulary or for grammar, for patterns or functional meanings. Again, you're going to need a dice for each group, and you're going to need a game card for each group. You can print these from the website, or you can create your own game card, or you can have your students create the game cards. I know in America we have pizza boxes, and so sometimes I use the pizza box that I'll just open it and put the game board there, and I'll just keep a stack of them in my office and bring to my class. But I want to show you, I just included these in the PowerPoint so that you could see them, but I actually want to go to the website because that's going to really show you. Let me get to, I have these all set up, and so let me hop into the website and get this copied and pasted for you. Let's see, escape. Go back here and see if I can. Here we go. Okay, sorry. We should be able to see it now. Do you all see American English? Yes? Okay, good. Okay, so this is the website that you come to. What I love about this website is that it gives you the template, and then it also gives you, for each one of these 11 games, it gives you ideas for how to modify the game. So I'm going to click on this board game name 3. So I have the instructions, and then I have the actual board game itself. So if I click on the instructions, it's going to tell me how I can use this game. Ah, how did that happen? I just tried this morning. Let me go back. That is so weird. How about name your favorite? We'll try that one. Let's open up the instructions. Oh dear, I think the website might be down, guys. Let me try that. That's very strange. I promise you, I looked at this morning, everything was working beautifully. So we may have a little bit shorter webinar than I had planned. Let me go back to the PowerPoint because I did copy some of the games there, and we can take a look at that in the PowerPoint. Okay, so what these games are, they're very colorful, and they are designed to get your students to talk in class. Here's an example of one called About Me. And so you need to have a little token so students can, use a coin if they want to, or they can, get a little piece of red paper, and one person can be a red ball and one person can be a green ball or whatever, but some kind of token that symbolizes them. And then you roll the dice and you move forward, and the first one to finish is, of course, the winner. But the way that you play this is that you have to complete the sentence. So it says start, let's go. If you roll a 1, it says something I really enjoy doing is, and you have to give us an answer. So this is all about me. Let's go ahead and try this, shall we? I'm going to just roll it and ask somebody. I got a number 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the question is, what is different from everything? Your microphone on. Okay. So just one person. Could I have one person tell us one way I'm different from everyone else is? Does anybody have an answer for that one? You can unmute yourself if you want to give me the answer.
One way I'm different from anyone else is I have a dimple on my cheek.
on your cheek. Very cute. Very cute. Let me hear another example.
One way I'm different from everyone else is that I'm a little bit taller.
Okay, a little bit taller than everyone else? Excellent. Let me roll it again. So we're on this position. I got a 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One animal I wouldn't want to be is...
One animal I wouldn't want to be is the lizard.
Is a lizard. Okay, excellent.
What animal I wouldn't want to be is the Komodo dragon. Because it's
Komodo dragon. Excellent. We have some of those at our zoo. I think they're so interesting. Okay, so here we are right here. I'm gonna roll it again. I got a 1. One animal I would like to be is...
Bird. Is a unicorn.
Dragon.
A dragon.
Okay. I would like to be is a unicorn.
A unicorn. A pink unicorn, maybe. Excellent. Okay, so you can see again that this would be maybe something fun to do towards the beginning of your class when your students don't really know each other, that this might be an icebreaker for them to learn more about one another and build a sense of community. Some of these are a little bit more complex. For example, this is practicing present perfect, this second game. So this is, I put 2 games on one slide. So this would be one game. Here's another game, Have You Ever? And again, you start and you just follow the arrows through until you finish. Let's do a couple of these just so you can see what it's like. I got a 3. So let me hear from somebody who has not answered. I know there's like 70 of you out there, so let's hear from somebody new. So I have 1, 2, 3. Have you ever traveled by train? And then it says when. So can I have somebody tell me, have you ever traveled by train and when?
I have never traveled by trains. I wish I could have a chance to travel by train.
Okay, I have never traveled by train. Perfect. Has anybody traveled by train?
Yes.
I have traveled by train in 90
Okay. So I have traveled by train in 2017.
2017.
Exactly. Okay, let me roll it again. We'll try 2 more. I got a 1. I've got to move my gallery out of the way. Have you ever traveled to another country? Has anybody ever traveled to another country?
To be honest, I have never been abroad.
I have never been abroad. Beautiful.
Yes,
I traveled to Thailand last year.
I'm sorry?
I traveled to Thailand last year.
Ooh, I have traveled to Thailand. I traveled to Thailand last year. Excellent. Okay, so I think you get the point. Let's try just one more for fun. Here we have a 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Have you ever missed an English lesson?
Sometimes.
An English 7. I'm sorry? Has anybody ever missed a class?
No, I'm a good student.
Of course you're good students. Of course you're good students. Okay, so that's the practicing, obviously present perfect. And over here, this is kind of nice because you just need a short answer. You don't necessarily have to explain your answer. So this is maybe a little bit better suited for lower level classes. The next 2 games, and again, there's actually 11 of these. I'm only showing you 4 of these. I don't know why the website's not working. I'm sure they're gonna fix it and get it back running. But if you get a chance, I hope you can go look at the website because they also have lots of extension activities. You can use these games in other ways. Here we have name 3. These look like hot dogs to me, but I'm not sure that they're supposed to be hot dogs. The first number I got is a 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I have to read that. Name 3 languages you would like to speak and why.
Vietnamese, of course. It's my mother tongue.
Okay, I would like to speak Japanese.
Interesting.
Creativity.
And then you can extend this and you could say, why? Why do you want to speak Japanese?
Well, I would like to learn to speak Japanese because I want to travel and have a chance to study at Japan.
Nice. Excellent. Let's try one more.
Speak Chinese because a lot of people speak it.
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no!
Go back.
Sorry. You have to go all the way back to the start. Okay, so I think you get that one. And then finally, last game. Again, this is for lower level students because all you're doing is naming your favorite thing here. But you can make this more complicated or complex by saying, why is it your favorite thing? Or what has this person done? Or what is in this TV show? So you have to explain your answer. I'm going to roll the dice. I got a 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. What is your favorite hot drink?
Tea. Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Milk. Milk. Coffee.
My
Hot
favorite.
milk? Awful. But I love hot chocolate and hot tea.
Hot chocolate.
Yeah, milk person. I'm sorry. Okay. Let's continue to our next thing. I wanted to do a very short breakout and discuss reasons for why we should play games. So at the beginning of this webinar, we talked about active learning and some of the benefits of active learning. And I wanted to just share with you a few more ideas for why playing games is beneficial in our classrooms. And again, if you wanted to think about any games that you have, if you have any websites that you use to generate games, if you want to put those in the chat, that would be great. Or if you just wanted to tell us very quickly about games that you have played that have been beneficial. So let's go into just one more quick breakout for, I think I'm going to shorten this. Let's just do 5 minutes. So let's speak very quickly. So we'll just do a 5-minute breakout and I will put these ideas in the chat so that we remember what it is that we're talking about. You are going to talk about why we should play games and do you have any games that you want to share. So I think our wonderful administrators will put us into the breakout rooms here in just a moment. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think we're all back together again. Could I please ask if anybody wants to share some ideas that they had? So why should we be using games in our classroom? What are the benefits? Again, if anybody tell us real quick.
Hello. I'm in team 8 and on behalf of my team, we have some ideas about how and what are the benefits of using games in our classroom. As you know, when teachers organize games in the classroom, they can create students' interest and students will have a happy atmosphere in their classroom. And also when students use games, they can help students memorize the works or what they learned in the classroom more easily and quickly. And students also have motivation to create, to be more excited about the lessons when they play games. And for number 2, we also share some games that we use in our class. Some say that she uses Kahoot games. She lets students play this game by using mobile phone. They can play online games. Yeah, and also clap the balls or bingo or knot and crosses or hot set or Kim's game. A lot of games that teachers have used in their classroom. That's all. Thank you for listening.
You got a lot that you discussed in 5 minutes. That's very impressive.
Yeah.
Do I have anybody else that wants to share?
I'm from group number 2, and I would like to share our ideas. We all agree that games are fun, and when we have fun, we learn much better. And when students play games, they are working with their friends in a small group, so they are more confident. When students play games, sometimes they have to compete to each other. At that time, they would forget the pressure of learning a language, or they forget about the language. They just focus on the ideas, and that's the reason why they can speak more naturally. And when play games, students have more motivation to learn. And the games we usually use in our classrooms are first, slap the board. We write words on the board and we invite one student to read the words, and other students try to slap. Who slaps first will win a point. And we change the games a little bit. For example, sometimes we check the pronunciation of the words. Sometimes we check the meanings of the word. Sometimes we ask the students to make sentences with the words. Sometimes we focus on the correctness, the accuracy. Sometimes we focus on the speed. For example, when we read out, when we check vocabulary and we read out one word, and the students who faster will win. We can replace slapping by throwing the ball, a sticky ball like this. In the same way. And in my classroom, because we didn't have enough time to discuss all our ideas, so I would like to share one other game that I use, that is snapping. I think it's a little bit violent, but the students don't want to be snapped. That this one, so they try harder. For example, when I teach the time, one student will make the time and other students need to say. And if the student says more slowly, they will get a snap. But we need to warn the student that it's just for fun. Do not punish hard. Yeah, that's all for our idea. Thanks for listening.
If he leaves his dirty laundry on the ground, can I snap him? I like that idea. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Do I have one more person that wants to share before we go in and look at our Moodle?
Yes, I'm from group number 5, and as the other group have said about what they have just mentioned why we should play games, I just want to introduce to the other teachers the game that I use in my classroom. And can I share the screen?
I don't know if I can make you a co-host. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I don't think I have that possibility. Oh, good, you can.
Yeah, so this is a category games, and I think it's a fast-thinking game of categories and words. And my student will place in a small group, and they have to raise again the timer, and they have to write down the answers such as things in the musical group, a vegetable, a reason to have a party, etc. And these answers need to start with a designated letter. And so this is the game I want to check in list 12, and I want to review the semester number 1. And this is a 26-sided. So one side is one alphabet letter, and the teacher will roll the dice. So for example, they get the teacher got the letter D. So the student have to give the answer to all the questions in the category list begin with the letter D. And if the two groups give the same answers with D, no group get the point. And if they can give the answer with 2 words begin with the letter D, they get double points. So and after the first round, they can move to the second round, and the teacher will roll the dice again. And it's really difficult for for the teacher to get a 26-sided dice. So I would like to recommend use the website Wheels of Name, and you can create the wheel of alphabet letters. And whenever you play the game, you just click and spin it. So this is the game that I use in my classroom. Thanks for listening.
Wow, that was fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was great. I think we have time maybe for one more person. Could one more person, if somebody else wanted to report out?
I just want to share the games called whispering or the pronunciation. For example, if I want to check the consonant cluster, I mean the difference between b and p. So the student will line up for about, I can divide a student into 3 or 4 groups or 2 groups. It depends on the size of the classroom. And so each line, so they will line to each other. Each line is about 3 or 4 students, and 1 student have to face to me, and the 3 students have to face to the board. And the student who faces to me will see the card that has, or maybe they can listen to what I say. For example, I say the word band, and they listen to me, and then they whisper to their friend, band, 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 band. And the last students will use the chalk to write on the board, band. And yeah, and so they have to, and then next, well, maybe the word pan, and they have to distinguish, and they have to listen carefully to write the right words.
Excellent. I've heard that game called telephone, but I like it how you called it whisper, because you whisper it and then the next person whispers it. And
yeah, and the other students in the class have to make the noise to distract them.
That is so fun. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that, everybody. We have just about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to go ahead and get into our Moodle real quick to kind of end up this presentation. Let me see if I can go back to being in control here. Share my screen, back to the PowerPoint, and the reasons that I came up with from this book called Games for Language Learning, and these were things that you guys have already mentioned, that it fosters cooperation, it provides a meaningful context, it allows for practice, it creates an atmosphere conducive to language acquisition. Somebody mentioned the students are so interested in the game that they forget to be scared about speaking the language. You can adapt it to all ages, levels, and interests. It makes learning fun. Somebody told me that in the breakout room. It encourages learners to take risks. It adds variety and it motivates people, and it provides a reason for using the language. When there's a competition, people are very invested in the game. Let me go ahead and jump into our Moodle though. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what we did. Well, let's go ahead and check out the Moodle. That's probably more important. In our Moodle, I hope that most of you have gotten in there. Do you all see it? Do you all see the technology for language teaching? Okay. This is our Moodle, and I need to get into the class. And you'll see that we have this webinar 1 where we have the supplementary resources. So for each webinar, I'm going to have a blue folder that will have extra reading material. This is not required. You don't have to read these. These are just extra supplementary materials if you have time. I know right now you are all very, very busy with the end of school. So please don't feel like you have to read all of this and take notes on it. This is just supplementary resources that I have found useful. We do have 2 activities for each webinar. The first one here is that 4 skills lessons plan. And I talked about that at the beginning, but you have your group of 9 or 10 people. If you open up the supplementary resources, you can find the teaching lesson plan template here. And there's also some more information about brain-based teaching and the PowerPoint itself that we used last week. Let me go back to the webinars. There is for webinar number 1, and again, if you haven't done this yet, it's okay. I still love you. I have a discussion. So this was a discussion where I'm asking you to write a 6-word memoir, and then I want you to just post 3 pictures from your life that are important to you. So 3 pictures that have some special significance or meaning for you. And then finally, write 2 or 3 sentences about your teaching environment. This webinar is designed for me to get to know you, but I want all of you to get to know each other. So I hope that you feel comfortable discussing things with your classmates. So if somebody posts a picture that you really like, reply that person, say, wow, I love that picture. Or if somebody gave a memoir you don't quite understand, you could ask them, what does this mean? Why did you choose this word? I'm very interested. So feel free to discuss and have conversations with your colleagues, because we're trying to build a network of teachers in Vietnam that can help each other and that can support one another. So that is the discussion for the first webinar. But let's pop into the work for the second webinar, and that is our makeover, right? We have supplementary resources here, and there is an article about cooperative game playing in the EFL classroom, and this was actually written by a fellow that I believe teaches in Ho Chi Minh City at the University of Education, but it's a great article. I read it and just absolutely got some really good ideas from it. So if you have time, maybe when classes are over, you can go in there and check that resource out. I'll have the PowerPoint that I'll put up after this presentation. And then I have the card questions board template. So if you open up this baby, and I don't know if I will be able to share that or not, but this is a blank card. So if anybody wanted to create their own card game, that is there for you. And then I also have the 3 game boards that I showed you, but it's the complete board. It doesn't stop at number 8. It's the complete board. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, Jack, Queen, King, Ace. So if anybody wants to use those, you are welcome to. I also have a Mad Libs Teacher's Guide, and I did open that up. Can you, whoops, that's not what I wanted to open up. This is about a 10-page guide. Let me see if I can actually open it, because I think it would be helpful for you to see. Let me stop my share for a second and pop over here to our Mad Libs. And I don't see it there. Let's see, where is that fellow? I don't know where it opened up. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and just tell you that it is a handout that's going to give you all kinds of ideas for how you can use Mad Libs in your classroom. So I would encourage you to open that up and look at it. And the reason why I'm encouraging you to look at this one is that we have an assignment, not really an assignment, a discussion that's related to it. So when you open up these Mad Lib ideas, it's very easy to read. It's just little short ideas for you to use in the classroom. So for each, for adjectives, for reading comprehension, for adverbs, all it does on the page is give you a short description of what you could use these activities for. So it's just an extension, a curriculum guide for you to try to see if it helps you when you're designing your lessons. So for the webinar number 2, it says here Mad Lib teaching ideas. You can see that this is a discussion. That's the little icon, the little green discussion. If you click on that, it says in the teaching Mad Libs, there's 28 suggested activities. The guide was written for teachers in grades 2 through 6. But I use some of these ideas in my classes where I teach adults. So what I'm hoping is that you can take a peek. And when I mean take a peek, You don't have to read the whole thing. I want you just to maybe find an area of interest and see if you can use any of those ideas in your classroom and how you might do that. So the directions say, take a peek at the guide and select one or two, if you want, one's fine, activities that you would like to try in your classroom. Let us know in a short paragraph why you think it would be successful and how you plan to use it. Discuss any potential challenges with implementing the activity and potential solutions to meet the challenges. So when I say a short paragraph, 5 to 8 sentences. This is not a formal essay. It's just a short paragraph for you to kind of think about some of these activities and how you might use them in your own classroom. Okay, my friends, back to our webinar. The last thing is kind of scary, I know, but you are all teachers and you are all so smart that this will be a piece of cake, I'm sure. The next thing is the quiz on the grammar and vocabulary content. There are 8 questions. They are multiple choice or true false, and you can take the quiz 2 times. So if you take it the first time and miss a couple of questions, take it again. So this is not really a quiz. This is just kind of a tool to kind of check your understanding, to make sure what I'm showing or creating with you is actually sticking and making sense. The deadline for the quiz is May 15th, so you have about 3 weeks. From here on out, our webinars are going to be every month. So it was, we had a webinar last Tuesday, and then we have one this Tuesday, today, but in the future, they'll be spread out. So you'll have a little bit more time to recuperate between the webinars and have more time to actually do the activities. Okay, are there any questions on the Moodle? Does everybody feel fairly comfortable about what to do? We have the webinar 1 and the webinar 2. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing that and go back into our PowerPoint. Let's see if I'm actually sharing that. Okay, so what did we do today? We talked about the benefits of using active learning in games. We talked at the very beginning about using scaffolding, learning by doing, creating stimulating experiences, use it or lose it, and remember emotions. So I think when we were talking about the games that we were addressing some of these issues. We talked about we practiced 5 different grammar and vocabulary games. We discussed extension activities with our colleagues, and we reviewed the Moodle for the upcoming homework. Here are some references for you if you wanted to check any of these out on your own. And I want to thank you for your attention tonight. It was very crazy at the beginning with my fire alarm going off. So I apologize for that disruption. I will see you all on May 18th for our next webinar, which will be on critical thinking. And if you remember, could you please bring a large piece of newspaper to the webinar? So a piece of newspaper that you can possibly destroy if need be. So, my friends, that is it for our webinar tonight.